Yo, it's a new day, and it's the conscious way. Yo, it's a new day, a new day. We've got the tools to free your mind, so come on, it's time to shine. Be a new day. We've got the healing that you want, so come on, create your life with a new day.
This is the Space is the Place Network, and you're now listening to A New Day with the ANU BEY podcast, a podcast about relationships with self, the collective, and spirit, and how we can become a new being or a new being, go beyond us, and have affairs with our side spirit for health and wellness. I am your host, Khem.
And I am Lahoma JeFaye.
And we are ANU BEY. So this is season 1, episode 3, entitled Curse Words. Don't let words curse you. Sorry, I was not able to get a doper title, but that's just what we got. Curse words. Do not let words curse you. So this show is a part of the Space is a Place network. So you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Just go to the search bar and type in @Space is the Place, and that's SPASE is the place. And once we surpass 1,000 supporters, followers, and subscribers that are truly supporting our cause, we'll break off and create our own platform for ANU BEY. So our topics of discussion for today, we have segment number 1, becoming a new being or a new being. We'll talk about our exposure to curse words or etymology. Segment 2, we'll talk about going beyond us, the true meaning of the word Black, the I Can't Breathe movement, and stay woke. And then segment 3, affairs with the side spirit. We'll talk about changing how we pronounce words and go into the discussion in regards to that. So let's get into it. Segment 1, boom. Our exposure into etymology or curse words. So you want me to start off? You want to start off your journey in regards to words?
So for me, my journey as far as words, I would say was when I started looking into Islam and researching Islam, and the books that my friend was giving me at the time was, they ultimately opened my mind up to different words, their real meaning, like the origin of words and stuff. It started making me look deeper as far as different words, like the fact that Satan is the same letters is Santa, like Santa Claus. Like It started really making me just look at a lot of different things. And then when I got into NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, it took me even deeper because they teach meta modeling. And so being aware of the words we use and all of that stuff or whatever, making generalizations like, I always do whatever. And it's like, always?
I'm always late.
Really? Huh?
I'm always late.
Right. And so it really helped me to look even more at the different things I said. For example, I remember, like they say, we each have our own keywords. And so for me, growing up, I would hear, you gotta, or you need to, or you have to. And so as an adult, I started using those, and it was like, oh, that creates stress for me, because if I don't want to do it, I'm still running that program. Right. And so really understanding the whole shoulda, coulda, woulda, like removing all of that. So yeah, that's my journey for the most part. And I would say I've gotten a little bit more into it even now, where I am now as far as going to school, ministerial school, because I'm learning to communicate with less words. Like to really just articulate what I mean and say exactly that without all like a bunch of words or whatever. So That's my journey. I'm
Getting
sure
rid of
yours is very
detailed.
detailed.
Right. Getting rid of the fluff, depending, because you can have like, well, depending on who it is, but you can be detailed, but still have a lot of profoundness in what you're saying. Because I know that a lot of people can throw a lot of fluff in there to buy time to make it seem like, oh yeah, I'm an authority in this, and it's like there's a lot of fluff in there, whether it be reading a book or listening to different shows, and it's like, come on, let's get to the point. Let's get to the point. We've discussed this before with listening to other people. It's like, let's get to it. You're talking
Land
too
the
much.
plane. Land the
Right.
plane.
Right.
Well, and when I say detailed as far as you're concerned, because I know you have more experience
Mm-hmm.
with, because you started long before. Well, I can't say that that's not true. We started about the same time, and you got more deeper into it than I did, I guess. I stayed on the surface
Gotcha.
until something happened, and it was like, oh, I forgot that is a thing. Let me get back into that. So, you know what? I forgot. I did get into it a little bit when I got into metaphysics
Mm-hmm.
because I was looking at spells and stuff. Like I really got into working with fairies and magic and that kind of stuff or whatever. So, actually, that probably was around the same time I was doing the NLP because they actually have a magic class where they talk about that and stuff. So, yeah,
In NLP?
NLP, the yeah.
Okay, so they have
the
a.
the program I went the program I went through, they had a class that was called
Right.
magic, and
Mm-hmm.
so they teach you different techniques to create what you want to create. It was like Harry Potter. I
Mm-hmm.
hadn't seen Harry Potter back then, but
It makes sense now.
yes, it does.
Well, being that I'm studying NLP at the moment, I will be looking into the magic aspect as to what you're talking about. But I know it all ties in, but I'm interested to know like where they're going in regards to that aspect of the magic. So I will be looking that up, and we'll connect on that in due time. So with me, I know my journey started um, Jordan Maxwell. So I'm listening to Jordan Maxwell. Jordan Maxwell is a white guy that's been doing it since like the 50s and 60s in regards to dealing with the occult knowledge. Now I usually say brother, but a lot
I
of
was gonna say, did you really have to say
no,
wait?
because normally I say normally, and this is the reason why I said that, because normally I'd be like, yeah, there's this brother that, and then a lot of people in their mind, they hear the word brother, they think, and I'm talking about a
Got it.
person.
Okay, okay.
That's the reason why I switched it and was like, it's a white guy. So it's like, hey, Naki, I was looking for this brother named Jordan. I ain't seen no brother named Jordan Maxwell. I seen a white guy named Jordan Maxwell. So that's the reason why I said it that way.
He's
So
the only Jordan Maxwell that I recall, like that's on at his level though. I don't know that there's any other Jordan Maxwell's. Like the
mm,
name, yeah, he's very well known.
mm. So I say a white brother. There's a white brother named Jordan Maxwell. So I mean, not taking anything away from him. So he's been doing this thing since the 60s in regards to studying the occult knowledge, etymology. He pretty much has, like I said, his whole life for the most part has been studying symbolism and things like that. So I first got wind of Jordan Maxwell probably in like 2004, 2005. And I think was YouTube, well, YouTube wasn't popping back then. I think it was like '07. I remember watching the his lecture dealing with the occult world of commerce, and he was breaking down the words. So it was like talking about maritime law and the law of the land, which maritime law is the law of the high seas. So he's breaking down certain words like looking at like court, for instance, is like, oh, okay, when we look at court, like when we look at sports, it's like they play basketball on a court, they play tennis on a court. So it's pretty much a game of back and forth, back and forth. So so he breaks that down. Then he looks at from a commerce standpoint, talking about and tying it back into the law of the high seas, which is the law of the water, looking at like when we're born, you know, the water breaks, and then we go down you go down your mother's canal, and then it's like, okay, then it's like when a ship is known in that world, a ship is always female. So when it parks, you pretty much you're delivering goods, and then you're in a delivery room when you give birth. Then you go into like birth certificate. Um, when you're delivering goods, you give a certificate of birth, like you've delivered these goods at this time. So it's like the parallels in regards to the two worlds. Then it's like,
Real quick, was that in a particular book?
no, this in his lecture, and he's actually just opening the door. Like he just gave the intro for another guy to speak, and then he breaks all this stuff
Yeah.
down. So then he starts talking about the bank, then currency. So it's like a bank in regards to the river. You have a river bank, and the bank pretty much controls the flow of the current, you know what I'm saying, of the waters. And it's like you have a bank where you put your money, which is called currency. So it's like all these different things. So that pretty much, watching that, and like I said, it was only like 20, like I think he did like 20 minutes. So he just, like I said, it was just an intro. Like that opened my mind to where it's like, yo, what is we talking here? So he has a website. I think it's the same website as before, but he had a website where he had like a page where he's just breaking down words. And I remember, like, I'm not sure if it was his page, because I pretty much was like all over the internet back in those days. Like, I want to learn about the words and etymology. So I remember it was a website where it was just breaking down, like, for instance, like Isis, the word Isis, which we know as an Egyptian goddess, Cometian goddess, Isis. If you know the story of Isis, Ra, Isis, Heru, and Horus, Isis is it's like the mother, the Virgin Mother Mary, but in predates in Egyptian times. So Isis is actually, when you look at the dollar sign, is actually Isis. So it's like you have the S and then you have the two lines. Of course, you don't see the other S, but it's like you see the symbolism in regards to, like, okay, this is the mother goddess. So if you do the research, what is Isis? So it's like, okay, they use that as a means to encode it in the symbol of money. So, you know, I'm seeing stuff like that. Then it's like, then we want to get into like sigils, like you were just talking about magic. Sigils is pretty much a practice of, you know, taking words and turning them into symbols. So it's like, go ahead.
For those who are wondering, because I hadn't heard the word either when he first mentioned it to me, it is spelled S-I-G-I-L-S. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, sigils.
If they want to look it up.
Right. Thank you for that. So sigils is pretty much taking words and turning them into symbols that only you know. And then it's like when you go into, you know, practice of looking at the symbol, you already know what the symbol represents, and it helps to open up for you to receive that, or receive that, whatever it is that you're symbolizing. So that's just a brief discussion. You can go and do the research, whatever. I haven't necessarily studied sigils, but I've pretty much looked at it and, you know, got a brief understanding of what it is. So like I said, just Isis, money sign. So it's like when you use the money sign, you're invoking the spirit of Isis in a sense. So looking at, well, going into like grammar, I was looking at a video with Infinite Waters. There's a brother named,
Ah,
oh, you already know about that?
slow motion.
You're already familiar with him.
Yes, yes.
So he has a video dealing with the spells of the English language. And funny enough, going back to Spaces of Place podcast, the first show I did dealing with Sun Ra, he actually spoke. He actually has a lecture where he did at Berkeley College where he was talking about words. So that just popped in my head. And I remember he was talking about the gospel, which breaks down into God's spell. So it's like gospel, when you look at the gospels, you're looking at God's spell. So what spell is God putting you under when you look at the gospels? So I remember him throwing that out there. So listening to Infinite Waters, he was talking about grammar. Like when we go to school, we're taught grammar, which grammar has its roots in the word grimoires. And if you don't know what grimoires are pretty much books of spells. So if you get into the occult studies, whatever, when they speak about grimoires, there's different types of books that are spells that deal with certain aspects of, like, if you want to do this, if you want to do this, you get that grimoire to be able to do that. So books of spells. So when you talk about grammar, spelling words. So it's like spelling words. So it's like spells. There goes the word again, spells. So we're taught how to spell words under, you know, dealing with grammar. So it's like grimoires, spells, same thing. So it's like we've been, since school, we've been put in a system of pretty much rituals at the end of the day. So it's like, it's no coincidence, you know, all of this stuff is done purposefully. So we look at, like, I remember earlier on, like I said, got the Jordan Maxwell information, start looking at certain words, like.
The guy's name is Ralph Smart for
Oh,
Infinite
Infinite
Waters.
Okay,
Yeah,
Ralph Smart.
Ralph
Okay.
Smart.
Thank you for that. So yeah, YouTube channel is called Infinite Waters. So like, I remember it was around like 06, 07, where it was like, oh, television. It's like, break that word down. It's like tell lie vision. So it's like, it's pretty much telling lies to your vision in regards to what we see on the television. Then it's like, you have different programs, and it's like, what is programs? You're programming, it's conditioning. So if you're telling lies, you're programming the person that's receiving that. And then it's like, we have different channels. So it's like, also looking at, like, we get into what is that, like Seth, we get into Abraham Hicks and the channeling aspect. You're channeling certain entities. So it's like, why is that associated with television, the different channels? So what are you channeling when you are receiving these quote unquote lies? Then it's, we can go a step further with remote control. We used to have well, we still do have remote controls. So it's like remote viewing. Getting into that science, like who is controlling us remotely with these channels and the programming with the television. So it's like, you see how it's orchestrated on that level. So then to take it, well, just different words, just throwing different words out there. So it's like going back to school. I think I mentioned this to you, like, also before I forget, library. You know what library is? Where lies are buried.
Give me a second to let that land. What?
Library.
How? Walk me through that.
Oh, library. It's like television. It's television, telling visual lies. And then library is where lies are buried. Because a lot of books pretty much, like, okay, we could just talk about just the library in general, to where we understand the history of, like, how, like, Constantine burnt down, you know, the Great Library of Egypt. So pretty much they took that information, well, they pretty much took the books, because if you want to go into, like, the history of the Vatican, they pretty much have all of that.
Right.
So, but in regards to our library, what we see back downtown or in our city, whatever, those are not, you're not going to get the true knowledge. You're going to get a suppression of history. You're going to get whatever history they are telling you. So when you go to the library, you're getting, these are where lies are buried. And a lot of us don't go to the library. A lot of us don't even read. So it's like, yeah, there's a lot of lies buried there. But if you go and do, like, if you really go do your research, you can start to unearth certain things. But there are a lot of lies that are buried in regards to the information that they want to put out there.
Okay, I get that. So I guess I was looking more for an explanation of how they get the buried part out of brewery. So I'm looking up the etymology now for brewery for me to go back and do later. Because I'm like, what?
Well, it could also be a play on words because this brings to mind like I was watching I forgot what I was watching a week ago or a week before. Um, Someone broke down the word officer, but it actually means overseer. So if you say overseer, 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 it turns into officer. Like it's just a play on words. So it
Got it.
doesn't necessarily mean brary means buried, but it's
Got
just a play on words.
it. Got it.
So
Yeah.
so yeah, but at the same time,
Thank you for that
overseer.
explanation.
Yeah, so at the same time, you say the word officer, but again, it's playing off the word overseer.
Overseer.
Now, to throw some humor into it, um,
I'm like, we need some because this is heavy.
let me throw some humor in there, but it could be true. So there's a rapper that goes by the name of Little Uzi Vert. You familiar with Little Uzi Vert? Never heard of Little Uzi Vert. So Little Uzi Vert is a new
Bird. Vert.
Vert,
Like what's that?
Vert.
Vert. Okay.
Little Lil Uzi Uzi Vert Vert.
That's an
Little
interesting
Uzi Vert.
choice of
Yeah.
name.
So he's a new generation rapper, whatnot. Popular amongst the the new generation, of course. And another rapper named Daylight. He's a battle rapper, whatnot. And he was playing with the word. He was like, is his name really Lucifer? So if you say Little Uzi Vert, Little Uzi Vert, Little Uzi Vert, it's like it turns into Lucifer. So it's like again, play on words. So it's just like he had fun with it, and he had like a video just breaking that down. Like, is he really Lucifer? So it's like so again, it's just a play on words. So but when you asked him like, where'd you get your name? He's not really like, yeah, boom, 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 because that's a weird name. Like, how did you get that name? So again, you have to watch what they're doing. And he's like one of the top selling rap artists amongst the young generation. He has songs like, I'm pretty sure you've heard the songs, you probably just didn't know. It's like, damn, what is, that, all my friends are dead. Dun, 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 is that,
I don't
all my
listen
friends
to
are
that.
dead. So it's just like, but it's like, that's one of his popular songs. So yeah, so it's
That's
like,
depressing.
it's a lot of emo in regards to the emo rap. It's like emotional and it's depressing. It has that frequency in regards to the music. It's like death, depression, and then other artists, dealing with drug addiction and things like that. So again, you have a top selling artist amongst the younger generation. All my friends are dead, and it's like you're called Little Uzi Vert, which could it be Lucifer? Are you channeling that, through your music? And then when I say Little Uzi Vert, am I saying Lucifer subconsciously? It's just slowed down.
I'm like, shoot, that's a good segue into the other. I don't know if we had a point to go to the next thing, but that would be a good segue into the
I'm
other
going
part of
to.
the music.
Okay, well, we'll get to the music. When we talk about stay woke. But I know, like, I've heard, like, I think Infinite Waters broke down these last two, like, the word nice means ignorant. Getting back into the etymology, like, if you look at the root word nice, Nice, it actually means ignorant. So if I say, oh, you're so nice, you're actually telling somebody like they're ignorant. If you go down to the history of that word, like nice equals ignorant. And then getting into the, go ahead.
So say kind.
You're so kind. Yeah, you can
Okay.
change. Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, so that I found interesting. I'm like, damn, nice means that. Okay, cool. I won't be using that again, unless I'm
I
really,
know.
if I'm being slick with somebody, I might use it. If I want to be petty. But I remember, I know something that I know that you use, like we say grand rising or good rising instead of good morning. So it goes into the whole talk in regards to death. So it's like when we mourn, you're pretty much mourning the loss of, someone that's passed away. That's how we've been programmed in regards to mourning. But every morning we say good morning. So it's like, okay, what are we actually saying? Like, what are we channeling? Like, what are we projecting when we say that? And pretty much they got the whole world saying it. So it's, again, rituals. Like, what rituals are we being put on? And I'll save the other one for when we talk about the stay woke. But it's, again, wake, morning, when we wake up, what wake is associated. But we'll get into that. We'll get into that. And then one last thing.
Different phrases that we use. Like instead of saying with my, because luck is supposed to be a good thing. And it's like, well, with my luck, and then we say something bad. Versus with my luck, everything will work out for me. With my luck, I'm going to win the lotto. Why don't we use it that way versus with my luck, it's going to rain. And so, yeah, just being mindful of the different phrases that we use on a regular basis that is like a spell or speaking ill will on ourselves or anybody else. I love you to death. Everybody uses that. Versus I started using I love you to life. Because love, you know, it's supposed to be self-giving and vibrant. I don't want you dead.
Right. Then we can go into diet. Like, we diet. So it's like, yeah, you gotta, like, okay, my diet is supposed to be, I don't even want to use that word. So it's like it has the word die in it.
Right.
So yeah, so words, speaking words to power, words have power, of course, it has a vibration. So it's like, yeah, you definitely have to start being mindful of your words, and not only mindful of your words, but you also have to be, know the origins or the history of your words. So yeah, that's very important. So we can go into Segui, into the second segment, you know, going beyond us, where we'll have the conversation in regards to the word black. Word black. Now, I know on the first show, Attracting ANU BEY, we had the discussion about the Afrocentric divine, the divine Afrocentric man and female, man and woman, and then you had a point where you, well, it was more so about the word Afrocentric, and then that opened up to the word black and, you know, identifying with the word black. So here we are, episode 3. And then we had our discussion prepping for the show. And then it's like, the word black has a whole different meaning when you get down to the etymology of that word. So you want to go ahead and give them that? Give them the word. What does the word black mean?
I didn't know you was going to ask me to give the actual meaning of the word. So pale,
what I had.
Pale, unimpressive, dull, lacking distinctive character or interest.
Say that one more time.
Black means pale, unimpressive, dull, lacking distinctive character or interest.
All right. And if you don't believe us, you can go look that up. We ain't like we just made this up, whatever. I guess I'll put the link in the under the description if I remember to. So people, but y'all got to get up and do your own research. So again,
do the work, do the work, people.
Do the work. Don't just take our word for it. Dun-dun-dun. Shout out to Reading Rainbow.
What you say?
The Reading Rainbow, where he's like, don't take my word for it. Dun-dun-dun. And then it goes to the next. It goes to the next segment. So yeah, don't take our word for it. Don't do the research yourself. So, so yes, black. Say it one more time. It means pale, unimpressive, dull, lacking distinctive character or interest. So when I first heard about this, it's like last year. So this is new for me. I heard about this last year. I think I was listening to Brother Polite or one of the conscious brothers in the community. It could have been a conscious sister, but I remember them throwing that out there, and it was like, yo, we've been identifying with this word for how long? Who put this in the lexicon for us to identify as that? Number 2. Number 3, if black means pale, who's really black? You know what I'm saying? So it's like we look at the word white, and you, based on how we've been conditioned, it's like you would associate more so white with pale because white doesn't have color. But, you know, white, if you go look at the word white, it's like shining, light. It has these qualities of like You're up
Wow.
here.
Purity.
Right. Now, of course, when you go look at the word black in the dictionary, it pretty much says, wicked. I think I remember watching Malcolm X and, him going through the dictionary, and it was like there was a part in the movie X, directed by Spike Lee, where he goes into both the word white and the word black, but he doesn't mention like what we just said. Is more so white is black is associated with wickedness, dark, like the shadow. Like, why do we say things like you're telling a white lie, or there's like, he gave examples like when we use the word black, it's associated with the negativity, negative. So thirdly, I was going to say, to go back to what I was saying, again, if black means pale, and me understanding the history that things are always flipped to where they want you to believe this is this and this is that. And it's like, in actuality, what they tell you not to believe is what you should be looking at, opposed to what they tell you to believe in regards to what they put in your face. Like, hence, like, we look at like Christianity, and we'll just say religion. I don't want to just single out Christianity. They put that in our face, like religion, religion, religion. And then when it comes to like the occult, when it comes to quote unquote voodoo, dealing with quote unquote witchcraft, when you get into Freemasonry or whatever, it has a certain stigma to it, to where it's like, hey, don't deal on that level. You need to be over here. It's like, oh, let me go study this, because, and then when I start studying this opens the door to a lot, when it pretty much causes me, it helps me, or it brings me to the realization like, oh, okay, the whole okie doke that they play on a regular basis. So it's like, when they say, oh, you guys are black and we are white, in actuality, I'm not saying we should go around and start calling ourselves white. I'm just saying how these words have power. So when we utilize these words, when I say I'm black, am I saying I'm pale? Am I saying I'm unimpressive? Am I saying that I'm lacking distinctive character or interest? So it's, again, rituals. You're putting words, associating words. They're giving you, they have power over you by giving you the words, and then you embrace it and you take them on and you attach yourself to it. So I'll leave it on that note in regards to the word black. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, so I was just going to add, there's a guy named a brother, since that's what you use, a brother named Dr. Jose Pimienta Bey. Bey is Bey. He's on YouTube, and there's a video where he breaks all of that down. He talks about the word black and how, I guess, if you were to contemplate where, why, when, all of the word black, them choosing to use it, and choosing a specific people to use it for, like the agenda, all of that, like he goes into all of that. And he also talks about the original people that were referred to as black were Asian. That's the other deal. He said that they were actually Asian people, that when they used the word, when the word first started being used. And then he talks about how it unfolded as far as Negro and stuff, as far as Spanish, and then, the slave trade and all of that, which is how black came to be in the United States or whatever, as far as brown people.
Got you. And that's the video you sent me, correct? Or is that another video? Okay.
No, I sent that video.
Okay, got you. Just didn't get a chance to watch it. Just didn't get a chance to watch it.
No comment.
So yeah, so we can shift over to the I Can't Breathe movement. I know that you spoke about this with the panel discussion that we had dealing with race and the conduct of race, the conduct of police and transformation with Dr. Damien in regards to the I Can't Breathe movement. So again, using words to ritualistically, put us in a certain frequency, keep us in a certain state. So you want to go ahead and open the door to the I Can't Breathe movement?
Yes. So it's interesting because the first time I became aware of what was happening, I was actually doing a treatment, and I was treating, I can't remember the specific person, what they asked for, but it had to do with, you know, health and all of that and stuff, and COVID, and then the Black Lives Matter. And so I was praying and I was treating, and it's like, I just automatically starts affirming, I can breathe. We all can breathe. And so I just really affirmed it over and over. And I finished the treatment. And then within like a few days, a couple of days, my timeline, my Facebook timeline, there was a post about where a guy was talking about, I can't breathe, and how people are saying I can't breathe during a pandemic of a virus that attacks the lungs. And so it was like, that's exactly, you know, that it, for me, it was a confirmation of what I had experienced as far as that treatment. And so I immediately started really spreading the word. It was like, we have to change the narrative. We have to tell a different story. The other narrative, I would say, like with George Floyd, I saw a post where they were saying, stop saying George Floyd was killed because he was Black. George Floyd was killed because the officer was racist. And so, because when you think about it, it's like, if I'm saying somebody was killed because they're Black, I can't do anything about the color of my skin.
Right.
That makes me feel helpless, hopeless, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Versus somebody doing something because they're racist, then it puts the responsibility, one, back in their court and on society to how are we going to deal with people that are racist. Versus, because I can't do anything about my skin color. Right. You're going to have to just accept me at the end of the day. So.
Kind of taking the power back. And again, having us say it, because you can't, how do I put it? You can't successfully put a spell on someone if they're not in, what's the word? Because we had to do this with, you got to get permission. So in order for me to perform something on you, I got to say, hey, Lahoma JeFaye, do you give me permission to XYZ? And then you have to give your consent, and I'd be like, okay, cool. Whether it be putting you in a trance, or, you know, at the School of Metaphysics, when we were doing healing, we would have to get permission. They would have to sign off and say, we'll give you permission to do the healing that I'm looking for. We can't just go and say, okay, I'm just going to heal. So, because that has its consequences in regards to doing it without permission. So, so it's like having us say, I can't breathe on you pretty much on a national or worldly scale, because this was a worldwide protest. And that's why I was like, this is odd how all of a sudden the world is involved, and we've been having all these situations take place throughout the years, throughout history, but just recently, just like now all of a sudden the world is standing up and, you know, so I'm like, I have to stand back and say, okay, it's much bigger than what's going on, not to take away from what's going on, but at the end of the day, I have to look at that and say, okay, you got the whole world chanting that in the midst of a pandemic that's a part of it has a virus that attacks the lungs to where you can't breathe. So when you are throwing this out there and people are willingly saying that, they're pretty much invoking that.
Giving permission.
Right. So yeah, you're giving your permission because out of your mouth, you're saying it.
Right.
Right. I can get into something else, but I'm not going to even do that.
Man, I just had tears. You might need to get into what else you got? No?
No.
All right.
I'll tell you offline because it's very sensitive.
Well, please write it down so you don't forget.
I got you. But it ties into this pandemic. But I'll tell you offline. I ain't gonna put that out there. Which, you know, some people have put it out there. And it ties into the etymology, and it ties into the spirit work.
Okay.
So yeah, so I have to look at that and say, okay, you're right. How do we change the narrative? Because we just wholeheartedly just fall in line and just do whatever the trend is. It's like we were doing the same thing with when Eric Garner was choked to death. That's where we first heard "I Can't Breathe." You had the T-shirts. You had like LeBron James wearing the T-shirt, and then again, yeah, you're wearing the T-shirts. You're pretty much affirming. You're speaking it, and then I've seen like the face mask with "I Can't Breathe" on it. So it's like you're wearing a mask to where it's affecting your breathing, not to the degree to where you can't breathe, but you're affirming on the mask, your shirt. You're saying it with the mask on. So it's like, what are we doing here? At the end of the day. So yeah, so these are the things you have to be mindful of. Like you definitely have to watch what you say, because you will, anything you say materializes in the physical, because that's the power of words. That's why we have affirmations. Affirmations is you're affirming, and it can go positive or negative, because subconsciously we affirm things like you were just saying, like, I love you to death, or just my luck, you
Here's
know.
another one came up. You know how people be like, I'm just trying to get on my feet. And so then you look up and somebody, they may break their ankle or hurt their foot some kind of way. But and so because it infers that you're not stable, or you know what I mean?
You're not already standing strong.
Say that again.
You're already not standing strong.
Right.
Right. So it's like, yeah, we say these things subconsciously. Oh, good morning. Are you invoking death or gloominess, or the death of your, or bringing more death to your life? Because you can look at death on a physical plane, but you can also look at death to where it's like, hey, I'm dying because it's like, we don't like the jobs we go to. We don't like the relationships that we're in. So it's like death all around.
Here's a good one. I know a lot of people that say, I'm on my way to the plantation. When they refer to their job, they say the plantation. And it's like, are we trying to bring slavery back or something?
But you're bringing the feeling back because you feel that way. So it's like, you can't complain that where you're going is the plantation. It's like you chose to work there. You chose that job. So it's like accountability. You have to take accountability as to.
All right, Kanye, don't get in trouble, Kanye. You chose.
Is it a choice? Is it? Well, I was one of the only brothers that stuck up for the brother. Understanding the science. Huh?
You said what?
I was one of the only brothers that stood up for the brother.
Look, I think I may have been not one of the only females. I mean, look, you and I think I know two other guys that were like, yeah, that makes sense.
Right. If you understand the science, like there's a science behind what he's doing and saying. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not like wholeheartedly, what's the word? I'm not wholeheartedly, it starts with a C. It's like the C word. It's like, I'm not, I can't think of the word, but I'm not wholeheartedly down with everything that he says. Oh. So I can't think of the word, but I'm not co-signing, there it goes, co-signing everything that he says and does, but I do understand on a deeper level. And of course, he's not gonna come out and tell you. And I remember saying this, like when he took the Confederate flag and put it on the flight jackets. Now, a lot of people was up and all like, oh, you know, oh yeah, I already knew it. He a coon, yeah. So all this stuff. And it was like, we gonna cancel Kanye. But it's like, okay, he's taking a symbol and he's changing the energy behind it. Because if you look at like what he does for fashion, what we do for fashion, like let's just take him out. Well, let's add us to the equation. Like we could take some, I was watching a short clip of a brother the other day, and he was like, yo, we made Tim's a fashion, like one of the, like Tim's, we took a construction boot and made that fashion in hip hop. We took a construction boot and made that fashion. So what we are able to do with fashion is like Kanye took that symbol. So it's like anything that hip hop touches becomes what it does. It changes. Like we'll get into that in the next segment with the N-word, but he took that symbol and said it turns into something else when we wear it. It doesn't mean the same thing.
I have a question though. I have a question. I get what you're saying. And at the same time though, if that is such a strong image,
Mm-hmm.
and it has a lot of emotion behind it, like if you were to just think about our ancestors and our elders,
Mm-hmm.
when they see that, it doesn't matter that I'm the next generation or the generation after the generation. When they see that, the energy is still there for them,
Right.
regardless of, you know, any future generations. So how do you transmute that? Like, isn't it still the same? How is it different if you didn't change it for everybody? I guess, does that make sense?
Yeah, it goes into what I just said a minute ago with it comes a point in time where you have to step away from how you've been conditioned. So it's like religion doesn't teach you how to go within to make transformation. So it's like if I understand the science, even if I'm an elder, that's not going to affect me the same way, because it's like, okay, I see what's going on. I identify. If I do feel some type of way, then that means I need to look within myself. Why do I still hold that charge in regards to what happened in the past? So again, what you're saying, like how you transmute that. So it's like religion doesn't teach you that. We're not taught that in schools. I'm not just going to wholeheartedly put it on religion. We're not taught that in schools. We're not taught that in religion, and we're not taught in our day-to-day society, because we've all been conditioned pretty much the same way, because we've been brought up the same way. A lot of stuff is breaking up now, and has been, because a lot of us have broken away and starting to look at, like, let me jump into this. Let me study this. Let me study that. Let me go into this. Let me experience this, opposed to like, well, I can't do that because they said that that's satanic, so I can't touch that. So it's like us that have gone that path, we understand that, and we've risen to a different level of understanding and know how to make change within our life. So I can't say like, okay, I get it, so we're not going to use it no more because the elders are feeling some type of way. It's like, hey, this is what it is. We need to change it. And then if we keep going by this rhetoric and moving this way, then we're going to continuously be in bondage. So there has to be a breaking point where it's like, hey, this might hurt, but it's like, hey, you got to learn how to channel that hurt.
Well, so that brings up another point. Um, Wallace D. Wattles, The
Mm-hmm.
Science of Getting Rich.
Mm-hmm.
There's a chapter where he talks about uh, things that are falling away. Like, why do we still put energy towards things that are going to change anyway? They're inevitable as far as falling away, and us based on evolution and everything. And so his recommendation is to focus on where we want to go and all of that stuff, which makes me ask the question, how come we can't just not focus on it at all? Like, just let the image or the flag or whatever go away, versus why does it have to be up to us to transmute that energy, I guess? Does that make sense? Especially knowing that not everybody understands the science behind all of that.
Right.
So, and with all the other spells that are happening in the midst of people seeing that image, that's all. I'm just asking different questions.
Yeah, it
So,
makes sense. Yeah, it's like, how do you get rid of it without suppressing it? That'll be the first question, because well, we can get rid of it, but again, are you suppressing it to where you don't want to deal with it and you just keep pushing it down to where eventually it'll come back up and rear its head? So it's like transmutation is like, okay, how can I take this image and change the again, going into changing the narrative or changing the meaning or the vibration of that. So again, Kanye with the Confederate flag on the jacket is like, okay, I peep what you're trying to do. You may not even be doing that, but I might just be looking at it from that angle and be like, okay, I see what you're doing. And of course, everybody else is like, oh yeah, he's with them. Yeah, he's lost it. Da da da. So it's like you're still dealing on the surface level. And like I said, I remember I broke all that down in a nice town hall meeting, and of course they jumped on me for saying that. So it's like, hey, I'm just trying to introduce a new perspective, but I get it. I'm just trying it, or attempting to. So we can shift it to like, we did talk about, well, I guess if we want to come back around, I guess we'll go into the stay woke with the going back into the music, because I was going to say, I'll just throw it out there. If we now have a different meaning or the true origins of the word black, what does black excellence mean? What does black pride mean? What does black consciousness mean when we speak that? So I'll just throw that out there for the audience to begin to meditate on and try to get a deeper understanding on, but we'll shift into going back into the music. So we talked about Little Uzi Vert or Lucifer for the young generation, and how the music is playing a role in keeping us in a certain vibration. So the song Stay Woke pops up in conversation when we had Tuesday. Childish Gambino's popular song Stay Woke. Is it even called Stay Woke? I just remember Stay Woke.
No, it's not called Stay Woke. It's called Redbone.
Okay. But the only thing you remember from that is
Stay Woke.
Stay Woke. So yeah, and then you read the lyrics, because I've never heard the lyrics. Like, I've heard the song, but I only remember Stay Woke. The lyrics was different from what we get from the song. Now, he might be saying stay woke from the traps, but when I hear stay woke and a lot of people saying that, and it's associated with the conscious movement, like, hey, we got to stay woke. When I hear that song, or when I think of the song, I'm thinking the song had a message, but the song was something else. What is the song? What was the song talking about?
It was a sexual song. It to me, it sounded as if the female was asleep and he was trying to get some while she was asleep.
And he was telling her to stay woke.
Stay woke, right?
But look at us. We took that and turned it into something else. But it's power. It's the same thing. It's power. It's associated now with, hey, staying woke mentally. Or he could have been using it as a metaphor.
It could have been a metaphor. I missed it. Just FYI, if you see this Childish Gambino, hit us up. Let us know what you meant by that song.
He probably not going to tell you, because I say he probably not going to tell you, because even with, like, if you watch the show Atlanta, have you seen Alana? Have you seen Alana?
No, I haven't. Don't do that.
Atlanta. Have you seen Atlanta?
No, I have not.
So just real quick, there's subtleties all throughout that show. Now, there was one episode that just did not go with the timeline. It was like, where did this episode come from? It was like weird. It was like, and real quick, when you look at it, you're gonna think Michael Jackson off top, because one of the characters goes to this house to buy. I forgot what he went to go buy. He goes to this old house, and then there's this white guy. It appears to be a white guy, right? And his brother is in the basement with the wraps around his head. So, and I haven't seen this episode in so long, but it was just weird in the sense to where he's like telling him his story, invites him in the house, and it's like creepy, eerie, whatnot. And he's like, yeah, my brother was such and such, and yada, yada, yada. He was a very famous piano player, yada, yada, yada. You've seen it? You've heard of it. You probably heard of it.
I know. I think I saw that episode because I was weirded out. I remember being weirded out. Was he like a killer or something? It was a piano in the house and. Okay. All right. We may not. I don't know that I want you to talk about this because that.
It brings back memories. Like, I don't want to.
I remember being just. What is this?
Right. So after I watched, the first thing in my head, I'm like, yo, he's subtly telling you about what happened to Michael Jackson, because there was a brother in the basement, and then there's a light-skinned brother who appears to be white. So it goes with that whole story of how Michael transitioned into the whiter, the lighter version. And then it's like, the question did get brought up too, Childish, like, hey, were you talking about Michael? He was like, hey, he had to play that, hey, it means a lot of different things. So he pretty much threw that out the window. But again, you have to catch certain things. So going back to the stay woke, it's like certain things are put out there for the surface level and it can have deeper meanings, but again, the artist is not going to speak on it because it's like, hey, I'm not trying to be put out there like that. They're not about to come knocking on my door. So hey, who knows? I need to go decipher the lyrics a little bit more. So yeah, so stay woke. As I mentioned in the first segment, we was talking about good morning centered around death. And then when you go to a wake, you're pretty much the last viewing or pretty much the last time seeing this person before you put them into the ground. It's kind of like I don't want to say a celebration, but it's more so like, hey, this is the wake before we have the burial and the ceremony for the funeral. So it's like, okay, when we wake up in the morning and say good morning, there's this attachment to death again. So awake, death. Woke is pretense or past tense of wake. So when I say stay woke, am I saying stay dead?
So I just had a thought. When you see a boat in the water, the wake is the way the current goes after the boat passes. Did you know that?
That's new. Say that one more time so I can.
So when a boat is in the water and it's going, if you've ever been on a boat, if you look at the way the water is flowing behind the boat, that's called a wake. That's called wake. It made me go back to what you were talking about at the beginning, as far as banks, currency, like the water, all of that. It just made me think of that. That's all.
Got you. Interesting. Didn't know that. So this is just my theory. When I say stay woke, given the understanding of the word wake, and we associate that with death. When I say stay woke, am I saying stay dead? So that's just throwing that out there. That's just something I came to understand, or just came through when we were talking about the music and all that, and then stay woke pops in my head, and I'm like, oh, all these different things. So just making connections where they might be valid, might be wrong, but stay aware. Instead of saying stay woke, stay aware.
That's good. Yeah.
All right.
We'll do a future show going more into music in detail down the line.
Got you. All right. So we can go ahead and segue over into the third segment, Affairs with Side Spirit, changing how we say and pronounce words. So me saying segue does not have the same as segue. So we are God having experiences down here on the earthly plane. So it's like, hey, I can bend words how I want to bend words. Who's to tell me what I can and cannot do? So if I want to say it this way, I can say it this way. So, which is a good segueing into, do you want to have the discussion in regards to the N-word? Like, where do you feel? Like, what do you want to get into?
We can do it really quickly. I mean, we don't have to go into
the depth.
Because I mean, it's a heavy topic, and we could do a whole nother show just on that alone. But we can touch on it. Okay.
So, as I brought to your attention, and this ties into us changing the word and how you pronounce it. The N-word, N-I-G-G-A, as we've used it in hip hop, again, is used as a term of endearment per Q-Tip from A Tribe Called Quest. It does tie into what I was just talking about with Kanye, like taking the symbol of the Confederate flag, changing the energy. We took the N-word, instead of using the N-I-G-G-E-R, we use N-I-G-G-A tying it back to what you said in regards to the older generation of Oprah is one of the prime ones that's always fighting hip hop in regards to the use of the N-word. And it's like, it does still have the sting. However, I brought to your attention like NWA, niggas with attitudes. It was like they took the word and purposed it to give them the power, and now they use the word. Tupac, you turning it into an acronym. Shout out to the acronym. Shout out to, you see me with the acronyms. So it's like Tupac, he took NIGGA and turned it into an acronym that meant never ignorant, getting goals accomplished. So it takes on a whole different meaning, right? And then I've talked about Kendrick Lamar, and I talked about this on episode number 2 for the Space is the Place podcast, where he took the word and he stumbled upon the word negus, Negus, which means Ethiopian king, royalty. So negus. So again, taking a word, changing the vibration of that word, and now it means something else. So it's like, you could use it, you can say the Nigger, and this is something that, like I said, the older generation or anybody can use. So if I have negus in my mind, and if it originated from that Ethiopian king, if someone calls me Nigger, in my head, I can interpret it like, oh yeah, you're just calling me a king. That's cool. Keep doing your thing, brother, sister, whoever. I'm cool because I've repurposed it in my mind, so it does not have the same effect on me as if I'm still living in the past. And, if the elders are living in that, because they had to go through that, it's going to be more of a push for them to repurpose it and change it in their minds because they went through it. But
Right.
The power of not allowing words to affect you, that's one way to do that. So I'll leave it on that note in regards to the N-word. Anything you would like to add to that?
No, that was that you landed that plane very quickly and easily. Thank you.
So anything you want to add in regards to this section?
Well, so I was going to say, then the next question is, I just want to end with questions ultimately. Mm-hmm. So if there is still negative energy behind the N-word, and people, it's like it's okay for Black people to say it, but not anybody that's not Black, why make music? Or I won't say why. What's the purpose of making music when everybody's going to be saying the N-word if they like the song and the artist? What's the purpose of making the song with the N-word in it if you don't want people saying it? That's one question I want people to consider. The other is, what words could we start using as far as affirmations to affirm ourselves as brown-skinned people, if we're not going to use the word Black? Mm-hmm. Or, are we going to say African American? How do you see yourself? How do you identify yourself knowing all of this now? Or do you choose to just let it be what it is?
Right.
And then the last question would be, what do I associate with? As far as, does anything that we said resonate? Or again, like blue pill, what is it? Blue pill, red pill, the mm-hmm. Matrix? Mm-hmm. Are you going to take the red pill or the blue pill? Are mm-hmm. you going to stay asleep?
Stay asleep. You'll get the knowledge, but then you'll wake back up and continue doing what you're doing. Or you're going to take the other pill, which is like, hey, you're going to see how far this rabbit hole goes down.
Right. Yes. Thank you.
So was that just a question for the audience?
Yes. That's for people that's watching.
Got you. So yeah, so I know I associate, I could use the word melanated.
You know what? I like that. I've used that occasionally. I think I'm gonna start using that a little bit more. Melanated.
But it also provokes action in regards to like, I want to see where my roots lie. because I know my aunt went back and did the research, and I know my roots go back to Nigeria. So it's like taking action and figuring out where you came from.
You know what? That makes sense. When I think about the Nigerians I've met and that I know, that makes a lot of sense. We'll have that conversation offline.
Okay. So yeah, I have Nigerian roots on my father's side. Okay. And I know more recently in regards to like, I know Bohemian Indian on my mother's side, going back to my great grandmother. Her father was Bohemian Indian.
Based upon what I know, that makes sense too.
So you know me, based off my roots.
I'm just saying.
I think it was Bohemian. Like, I'll talk to my moms later. But I think I don't want to say Cherokee, because Cherokee is like the most known. I think it was Bohemian, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I have Indian in my blood on my mother's side, and then Nigeria on my father's side, going back further. So yeah, we'll have that discussion.
Word.
All right, so we're gonna end it on that note. So this concludes today's show. This was season 1, episode 3, entitled Curse Words. Don't let words curse you. So we discussed in segment 1 our exposure to curse words or etymology. Segment 2, we talked about the true meaning of the word black, the I Can't Breathe movement, and then Childish Gambino's Stay Woke. And then the last segment we just finished with changing how we pronounce words, all right? Changing the vibration. So join us next week for episode number 4, entitled Changing the Narrative of His Story. Do you like that, or we need to work on that?
It's okay for now. I'll let you know. Let me sleep a couple days and then.
Okay. That's what it is now. Changing the narrative of his story. Hashtag Corona Rising, hashtag Kanye 2020. So we'll discuss, we'll go more into depth in regards to changing and repurposing, because we've been talking about that, repurposing the history, changing the narrative of not his story and what he wants us to see in regards to ourselves, but changing our story. All right. So also check out the Space is the Place podcast. Next week's show is dealing with Rosewood, the movie Rosewood, getting into the history of affluent Black communities that were thriving and how they were torn down. So I'm going to watch the movie Rosewood and then break it down and give my thoughts on Rosewood and repurposing, like they did with The Watchmen, with the Black Wall Street. You've seen The Watchmen? You haven't seen The Watchmen? You haven't seen it yet? Definitely go see that.
I go see that. Okay.
All right. So where you can find us, the show is, again, part of the Space is the Place network. So you can find the show on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Just type in Space is the Place. That's SPASE is the place. Again, once we surpass 1,000 followers, subscribers who are truly supporting our cause, then we're going to break off and have our own separate platform for a new day with a new Bay podcast. All right. So in closing,
remember,
it's at the bottom. I put it down there. You got it.
Thank you. I had it and then it was like, wait, always create a new day with the new Bay.
Touche.
Wait, what do you do?
Yeah.
Always create a new day with the new Bay.
Touche. And never lose faith, because what you say matters. All right. I am Khem Anu Naki.
Lahoma JeFaye. I almost said Lahoma JeFaye Bay.
And we are a new Bay.
A new Bay.
All right. Peace.
Word.
Yo, it's a new Bay, and it's the conscious way. Yo, it's a new Bay, a new Bay. We've got the tools to free your mind. So come on, it's time to shine. Be a new Bay. We've got the healing that you want. So come on, create your life with a new Bay.